In June of 2026, researchers finished reading everything that survives of a scroll burned in 79 AD. Roughly 20 columns of ancient Greek recovered end to end, without ever physically opening the charred scroll. Because what survives is a lump of charcoal. Touch it carelessly and it crumbles. So how do you read charcoal? This is the story of the only large-scale library to survive from classical antiquity, because a volcano destroyed it. Herculaneum, 79 AD. Mount Vesuvius erupts, and a wave of scorching gas in one seaside villa, a room full of papyrus scrolls flash burns at hundreds of degrees in seconds. The heat should have erased them. Instead, it carbonized them, turning every book into stable charcoal. Then 20 meters of volcanic rock sealed the villa shut, away from air, water, and thieves. No air, no rot, no looters. The villa's books were locked in stone for 17 centuries. Trapped inside were roughly 1,800 rolls and fragments, and for centuries nobody could read a single one. 1752. Tunnel diggers under the ruins hit what they thought were lumps of coal. Some may have been discarded or even used as torches. Nobody yet knew what they were holding. Their true nature became clear only when one broke open and revealed handwriting inside. The king's men in Naples tried slicing scrolls open with knives, copying words, scraping layers away. When George need wake, Isprely a rate is appointed. Hundreds were cut apart that way. The text was read and destroyed in the same motion. A Vatican priest named Antonio Piaggio built a machine to unroll them gently, using silk threads. It advanced only millimeters at a time. Unrolling a single scroll could take years of patient work. Piaggio's machine did recover real texts, mostly a Greek philosopher named Philodemus who once lived there. But unrolled scrolls shattered into fragments. Generation after generation, the attempts ended in piles of black confetti. The conclusion was brutal. Opening them destroys them. Reading them meant never opening them, which sounds impossible. Proving otherwise would take a particle accelerator, a neural network, and one very lucky college party. 2015. A computer scientist in Kentucky named Brent Seals pulls off something called virtual unwrapping. His team put a charred Hebrew scroll from En-Gedi, too fragile to touch, inside a CT scanner. Software traced the rolled layers in the scan, flattened them digitally, and text appeared, the Book of Leviticus. No one had touched the scroll itself. The entire unwrapping had happened inside a computer, layer by layer. So Seals aimed at Herculaneum and hit a wall that nearly killed the whole idea. The En-Gedi ink contained metal. In the scans, its letters glowed like bright neon against dark papyrus. Herculaneum ink is carbon ink on carbonized papyrus, black writing on a black page. In the scans, letters and papyrus looked identical. The books were open at last, and blank. The team scanned scrolls at a particle accelerator anyway, betting the ink left some physical trace. It did. A texture in the surface, subtle as a fingerprint, too subtle for human eyes. Not for machine learning. March 15th, 2023, Nat Friedman, Daniel Gross, and Brent Seals launch a global contest, the Vesuvius Challenge. The deal: here are the X-ray scans of unopened scrolls, prize pool over $1 million. Thousands joined, students, programmers, papyrologists. They trained neural networks. That August, a 21-year-old student named Luke Farrater set his model running while he was at a party. The output lit up on a cluster of Greek letters. He read them, porphyros, purple. One word, the first ever read from inside a sealed Herculaneum scroll. It was announced that October, it won Farator $40,000. Then he teamed with Yusuf Nada and Julian Schilliger for the grand prize. The three won $700,000 for recovering over 2,000 characters, readable passages from a sealed scroll. The author, likely Philodemus, was writing about pleasure, music, food, and whether scarcity makes things sweeter. That was 5% of one scroll. The question changed: could anyone read an entire book? 2025. Inside a scroll in Oxford, unopened for 2 centuries, a title emerged from the scan. Philodemus, on Vices. For the first time, a sealed scroll had given up its author and name. Then, June 25, 2026, scroll 1667, scanned in Grenoble, had been read, its entire surviving core. Nearly 5 feet of papyrus, roughly 20 columns of Greek, the first Herculaneum scroll ever read continuously. But reading it was only the first surprise. The text was something scholars had barely dared hope for. It appears to be a Stoic treatise on human nature, impulse, self-control, and moral progress. Its final column names Aristocrion, nephew of Chrysippus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers of antiquity. Chrysippus may be the author, a possibility, not an identification. He wrote some 700 works, almost nothing survived. That same June, another scroll gave up its title, Philodemus, On Gods, Book 8. A book nobody knew existed. Texts lost for 2,000 years are coming back, and the truly staggering part is still underground. Everything read so far comes from one corner of the villa, probably one philosopher's private working library. Most of the villa is still underground. Excavations in the 90s revealed lower levels, rooms still sealed in rock. Think of what is missing from antiquity. Lost plays, lost histories, most of what Rome ever wrote. By some estimates, most ancient literature is simply gone. A single buried room could rewrite that math. And more than 600 excavated scrolls remain sealed in libraries today, waiting for their turn under the scanner. It is no longer impossible. Turning one breakthrough into a recovered library is an engineering problem measured in years. A volcano burned this library, buried it, and by burying it, carried it across 2,000 years. The eruption we remember as a destroyer turned out to be antiquity's most careful librarian. Some scholars have long speculated the villa held a second library, Latin literature, history, perhaps thousands more scrolls. No such library has ever been found. If it exists, it is still down there, in the rock.